In the midst of yet another failed evangelical effort of my own in the sauna at the LA Fitness in Port Jeff Station, after I'd given up that I was a priest, I was asked, "So is Jesus the Son of God?" Now, when I say evangelical, I confess I am not much of an enforcer for the gospel. I have that rather basic American idealist disposition toward the freedom of other people to take it or leave it. I have no gift for browbeating. I always wait until I'm asked, "What is it you do for a living?" And I only rarely get to that point of offering, "Please come to church." The sauna of the men's locker room at the LA Fitness in Port Jeff Station has no shortage of political and cultural wisdom as it is offered up in its greatness in Suffolk County. It's best to be a listener there, lest you find yourself hoisted onto the debate stage in 180-degree heat. So when I was asked, "So is Jesus the Son of God?" the inquirer was a young man in his early 20s, clearly a disciplined weightlifter, baptized as a child, lapsed away from church, but full of questions, maybe inching back to church, maybe inching further away. So I gave my simplest reply first. Yes, Jesus is the Son of God. But then, of course, my compulsion to complicate things kicked in. And I said, but it's important to understand this in the context of apocalyptic Judaism, the ancient Roman world, and of course, the Gospel of Mark, where Jesus is regularly referring to himself as the Son of Man. And just as I was about to get into the Greek, Jesus is both huios, tu, anthropou, and huios theo. The young man interrupted me, charged at me with another question. And what's with all these people these days into pagan and witch stuff? The conversation continued at this same perilous attention span until the heat became suffocating. Let's now look at our gospel text today for some answers. The setting of the gospel story today is Caesarea Philippi. This is a rural area in Galilee where one of the great springs that feeds the Jordan River is, the river that Jesus was baptized in. Also, there are the beautiful Benias waterfalls. So Caesarea Philippi is this place filled with lush life and living waters, but is also associated with the worship of the ancient god Pan, a god of wild things and wild places, god of shepherds and herds, a god who caused armies of men to panic. You would not worship Pan in a temple, but in the wild outdoors. Pan is known to be the only ancient Greek god to have died. Now, the story of the death of Pan comes to us from the Roman historian Plutarch. According to Plutarch, a sailor from Egypt named Themis is sailing to Italy, and as his ship passes along the Greek islands, a voice comes from across the water. "Themis, the great god Pan is dead." And so Themis reaches port, and of course, he tells this story to anyone who'll listen to him. The great god Pan is dead. Now, as for Plutarch, he was born sometime around the year 46 AD. So this is already the time Paul's mission to the Gentiles is in full swing. So if we can imagine, maybe he's 30 years old when he writes this story about Themis town. So this is around about 80 AD. The gospel is spreading like wildfire through the pagan Roman Empire. So what is Plutarch saying here? He's saying, my fellows, we have our own God who died in Pan. Our gospel scene today is not set in Caesarea Philippi by accident. Now, as to this Son of Man, Son of God, These two identifiers of Jesus in Mark's gospel. The tension is between a lived and died pastoral life, a ministry in the world, the Son of Man who dwelt among us, and then his revealed and interpreted divine identity, Son of God, the fruit brought forth at his death. The Son of Man is the one who is to go through many sufferings and be treated with contempt. This is Jewish apocalyptic prophecy. You see it in Isaiah. It's all over. Jesus holds the tension between being Son of Man and Son of God by insisting the disciples tell no one. Even after a voice comes out of a cloud declaring Jesus, Son and Beloved, tell no one. Tell no one. But then later in Mark, the way that Jesus draws his last breath on the cross is enough to reveal, even to a Roman centurion, an esteemed soldier, one who knew in his bones better than anyone that the only person around with divine sonship was his emperor. Even he could see, looking up at the cross, truly this man is God's son. You see, Jesus is not Elijah, not John the Baptist. He is not one of the prophets. He is not an usher in God's coming kingdom. He is the king, the son and heir of God's eternal palace. He alone holds that specific apocalyptic role to draw all creation in and through himself into the infinite future that the Father has entrusted to him. And to be drawn in and through and by Jesus is to deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow him. That is to center ourselves, our lives, in our baptism. As Paul tells us in his letter to the Romans, do you not know that those of us who were baptized into the Messiah, Jesus, were baptized also into his death? That is, his death on a cross. That instrument of public humiliation and torture and domination that screams, let your miserable fate be a lesson to others who try to live their lives in hope. Of course, our own cross is not at the hands of the Roman Empire. Those powers long ago hid themselves in the great institutions of the Western world. And although the cross of Christ was real wood and nails, our own cross is not necessarily so visceral. Our own cross is our daily humiliation, our doubt, the spectacle of our public suffering and our private shame. Our own cross is what ways we stand against the world of aggression and control and conflict and sin. Our own cross is our penitence, our acknowledgement of our faults and flaws, and our embrace of others despite theirs. Our own cross is our service of love and forgiveness, even to those that would break down our ego and torment and shame us. Our own cross is also our own and everyone we love's very real, inevitable suffering and death. The Son of Man came to do what we all must do in a fallen world, came to love and cherish and eat and drink and suffer and die, so that upon his return to life, raised up by the Father, he might be known to us in his sonship as the Son of God, the first fruit of the resurrection, that by his Spirit he could shepherd us into his care, into his trust, calling all people to be children of God through his very real death. By the waters of baptism, through all the joy and suffering of this life, that love and hope and light from God's eternal home would shine through us, through the action and presence of our bodies. God's children, sons and daughters of light, lift your crosses high. Amen.